Coming up, it's the case that continues to make international headlines. This one very serious. A WNBA star now transferred to a Russian labor camp after her appeal was denied.
We're going to have more on the Brittney Griner case with a cannabis attorney about the consequences of traveling with marijuana and more. That's next.
Talking about Brittney, the baseball star who has now been sent to a forced labor camp in Russia.
Now, this comes nearly 9 months after the WNBA star was arrested for allegedly possessing cannabis oil while going through a Moscow airport. Griner's lawyers tried to appeal her 9-year sentence, but that was denied last month. The White House has condemned the move. Griner will face harsh conditions in a forced labor camp in Russia. It just sounds crazy that she's there. It will also be difficult for her to get in contact with her family and for them to even know her exact location. Now, close contacts with the U.S. government and other organizations that are working to release American detainees are still on the job. Joining us in studio, of course, is cannabis attorney Barton Morris.
Yeah. Before we jump into it, Lee and I were having a great conversation in the commercial break, wondering, she made a confession and admission early on, saying, yes, I had this in my bag. Whether or not that's the right thing to do, does that give lawyers, even when we're talking about international law, some wiggle room if she had said nothing?
If she wouldn't have admitted it.
Well, of course, anybody that's admitting to a crime is generally going to make things more difficult for the lawyers representing them. But, you know, she probably felt as though it was so innocuous that it was such not a big deal.
Right.
She felt comfortable going ahead and admitting to it, thinking that she would just be admonished and sent on her way.
First of all, welcome, man. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate you for coming in. As an African American in this country, my parents, my brothers all said, don't say anything. If you ever get arrested, say nothing. Would that have helped her in this case?
Probably, but you know, at airports generally you're subject to search anyway, and so they may have already known it. It may or may not have helped her, but I agree. The best advice in general is when confronted with the police, and if you're a target of investigation, you generally shouldn't say anything.
The reality is we are facing an era where marijuana is being decriminalized. By the minute, we are seeing states knock these laws down, even though people are still incarcerated for this, so maybe we'll get to that in a second. But when it comes to international travel, what do Americans need to know? You
know, there's 29 different countries that have now legalized or the recreational use or possession of marijuana. The problem is that most Americans don't know which one of those countries have done it. Right?
Yeah.
I only know just because I looked 5 minutes ago. So the safe move is to never travel with controlled substances, particularly out of the country. But even in different states, we can go. In Michigan, we're used to legalized marijuana now, but there's 20 some other states where it's still illegal, and so going into those states, you're putting yourself at jeopardy for arrest and for prosecution there too, in this country.
Now here's the thing where it gets weird, because a lot of people have cannabis products that aren't necessarily, they wouldn't consider, say, traveling with a joint is different than traveling with cannabis oil. Is there a difference? Say I crossed the Ohio border with cannabis oil, would that be legal?
It's not legal. In the state of Michigan, we've legalized it here. We have no right to perform those or identify what's legal in another state. It is absolutely not legal to go into Ohio. Ohio does not have recreational legalized marijuana. They have medical, but only under certain circumstances, and so it's absolutely the wrong idea to take a joint, oil, anything that has THC or marijuana and bring it into another state.
To your point, this may seem like a low-hanging fruit question, but if you genuinely do not know and are unaware, okay, in Michigan I have this, so I got this vape pen, I didn't realize this would be a problem. I'm assuming that does not take you far legally.
Right. We are all presumed to know the law in the area in which that we are. So in any other state, regardless of if you've never been there before, you're presumed to know the law. Otherwise, it'd be a defense. Anybody can say, oh, I didn't know. I didn't know that stealing was illegal here. But you have to know. And the best advice is simply just not ever bring controlled substances, even if legal here, don't bring them somewhere else.
And I want to jump back to Brittney for a second, because saying that she's in a labor camp is just, It sounds insane to me. Is there any comparison to our judicial system that we can understand what labor camp means?
It's cruel and unusual punishment, which constitutionally we in this country should be free from. A labor camp would be a place, obviously, where there's hard labor going on. I'm pretty sure that there are no labor camps or penal colonies that are permitted because they're in violation of the 9th Amendment of our Constitution.
And there's no way for an American lawyer to keep her out of that prison, even though she's in Russia.
That's Russian laws and Russian, obviously, government. And clearly, I think the highest levels of government right now should be trying to get her out. I mean, not only is it absolutely ridiculous that she's there for a marijuana-related offense, but to be given that type of sentence, again, here we have a constitutional right not to be subjected to that type of cruel and unusual punishment. Yeah. Evidently, that's not the case there.
And it seems like a repetitive question, but a message to hopefully not potential clients. There is this attitude of, I'm American. I'll get to an embassy. They'll figure it out. It's not illegal where I'm from. It's fine. What do you say to that?
Most people know who Brittney Griner is.
Yeah.
And I certainly knew who she was. And the moment that I heard this, I couldn't believe that it was happening, especially for a small amount of cannabis, of THC. If it can happen to her, it can happen to anybody, particularly in a place that's so politically charged right now.
Barton, we appreciate you for coming in, man. Where can people find you?
You can find me at my website, cannabislegalgroup.com, at the law office of Barton Morris. We're in Troy, Michigan.
Good man. We appreciate you for coming in, man.
Talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
#TheNoon. Share your comments on today's discussion.